All right, sounds good, man. Well, yeah, hey, figure we could get together, chat a little bit about cards, ask each other questions and kind of just see where this organically goes.
Yeah, so like I said, I kind of want to. I've started getting a little bit into it and reading stuff. I bought a pack maybe a week or two ago, but I mean, it's nothing heavy yet. I'm just kind of trying to see where the footing is because there's so much new stuff. I mean, I'm definitely one of those people who started collecting when everyone was collecting in the 90s and then stopped for a long time. And now I'm kind of like wading back into the experience.
Dude, you're definitely not the only one. I mean, literally, there's been a wave of people who have come back into the hobby. I personally credit Gary V, Gary Vaynerchuk, even though I've read he isn't good for the hobby. And listen, I think anything once it gets bigger than its initial little circle of people, like anything good, eventually things do get too big for their own good. You're going to have people coming into the hobby that aren't from the hobby and not people that are like, oh, I used to collect cards as a kid and now I'm back into it. Like, that's awesome. That's who I am. I'm talking about, sneakerheads and people, going to buy up boxes at Walmart and resell them for 4x on eBay.
Real
That,
quick, explain who
yeah,
Gary
go
Vee
ahead.
is again.
Oh, Gary V. So Gary V is kind of a social media phenomenon, if you will. He is all over the place. I see him on Instagram, LinkedIn, you name it. He's
Right.
out of New York. He's famous for basically just being in front of people on social media, and he gets in front of people because he leverages the hell out of his network and his digital media agency and finds ways to collaborate with other famous people and
Right.
essentially just gets in people's ears. And some people haven't been exposed to him, but once you're exposed to him, it's like everywhere you look, then it's just like there he is again. So
How
he's
is
big in
he?
the hobby.
When people complain about him as far as the hobby goes, how is it? What are they saying that he's been negative for it?
Just bringing in this type of person, like this flipper, this sneakerhead, this person who wasn't in the hobby, but they saw a Gary Vee video that got 2 million views, and all
Mhm.
of a sudden, he's telling everyone, hey, cards are making a comeback, and the reason cards making a comeback is you can pull out a Zion Williamson out of a $3 pack of cards and it could be worth 30 grand, and what he says is kind of, it's a bit loaded because on one hand, you really can't do that. You're not going to pull a 30 grand Zion, I don't think, on any $3 pack of cards, first of all. So, but he's getting a
Right.
lot of people that are kind of just in it for the wrong reasons, I'd say. That's what the hobby would say. I don't mind it. I think it's good for the hobby in general. I think getting more exposure, yeah, it'll drive up prices, but just like everything in life, it has to evolve and it has to include as many people as it can include, and then it'll continue to grow, and then it'll continue to be more accessible. So I don't know. I mean, that's just how I look at it. I know a lot of people wouldn't necessarily agree with that point of view, but I like when people are talking about the hobby, especially as
Mhm.
someone who's trying to collect. And yeah, I'm getting back. I got back into it like about a year and a half ago, and I'm knee deep in it, in the sense that, like, I like to buy cards and I like to collect and I like to even do a little flipping on eBay. But it's going to raise values of cards if more people are in the hobby, and frankly, I think that's a good thing. I know a lot of people are in it for their own reason, and we can talk about that, but um, it's definitely, I think, a good thing that more people are talking about the hobby, not less. And I'm glad it's not like 96 again or whatever back in the 90s when this ship just sank, and everyone stopped talking about cards for 10 years, and it was like a cool little niche thing to all the hobbyists, but it kind of got forgotten about in pop culture, and now it's back. So I think that's a good thing.
Yeah, no, so it reminds me, the way you talked about that reminds me so much of as being an indie rock fan, just like
Yeah.
people complaining about bands becoming more popular. I mean, this seems a little more ridiculous to me because the entire industry is driven financially in a way that, like, the value, what attracts people to the cards is the value. People will be more people. When I told my friends that the Mike Trout one that sold for, was it 900K
Ooh,
on
yes.
eBay, like, that gets attention. You know, so,
Right.
like,
I
I've been
mean,
telling them for like months or whatever, like, oh, car buying's kind of coming back, and they laughed it off, and I'm like, and eventually I show them, look at eBay and what these are going for and what Bowman are selling for now, and it's a little more attention grabbing. I'm not saying they're jumping into it, but it's also it brings more of an awareness to it at least.
Right. It's like a mic drop moment, when people kind of laugh you off because the last article they read was about how the card industry is dead and all these people wasted their money, in the
Well, they
late
also
80s
read
and 90s.
that industry, that article about 10 years ago at this point, probably.
Right, right. And that's just in their head. And so you're like, okay, all right, fine. And Mike Trout just sold for $1 million. Now what? I will say though, there would be a lot of people that would challenge your statement about people wanting to be people thinking, hey, the hobby's doing great because the card values are doing great. A lot of people, like I said, are upset about that. There's people that are into card collecting because they like to collect. They're a Denver Broncos fan or they're a Chicago Cubs fan, and they just like to collect specific players. They like to collect rookies from that team. They like to collect variations of cards. They like to collect, reverse negatives and all sorts of weird things people collect and get into. And it's more expensive for them to do that now. So I certainly can, sympathize with those that aren't in it for card values because they are out there. But at the same time, everyone's got their reason for being in it. And for me,
I think we're pretty far away from if the one worry that they have is the saturation of the market that you had in 92, 93, where you had Upper Deck and Score and Don Russ and just everybody pumping out 5 different types of brands of card and everything like that. I could see that where they would be concerned, but we're pretty far from that from what I can tell at this point.
Yeah, and I'm no expert. I mean, I'm learning every day. Like I said, got back into it about 18 months ago. But from my understanding, the junk era, which is the era of cards you're referring to, they just overproduce the shit out of this stuff, and the print runs were just in the millions, and it's just the stuff became worth it. Everyone got one, everyone could go to their local shop or retail outlet and get the player they want, but it was worthless, and now they have this focus on short prints and rare parallels and autographs and all sorts of cool stuff to kind of create a more even-keeled kind of supply and demand. And people are back into it. And like I said, collecting random things. And I think it's great. I love it. I can't see a card that's, they make 5 of, in a certain series of a player that you really like and follow, Okay, if he sucks in 10 years, yeah, it might lose value. But if he ends up becoming a really good player and, there's only 5 made in that year's series, I mean, that's what's cool. That's why it'll retain value over time. And I think that's a really cool addition to the hobby. I don't know when they started that, though.
Well, I hesitate to bring this up because I don't know a ton about it anymore. But I would say it was when Chris Bryant was still in the minors. I worked with a guy who was part of a community who heavily traded like minor league players' cards. And their value was specifically tied to their performance in the minors. And I mean, it wasn't cheap cards. These were not cheap cards. He had, I think, $500 worth of Chris Bryant cards at the time.
Oh yeah.
It was within that community, though. I mean, he had like 5, I think, refractor style rookie Chris Bryant cards that were worth whatever $100 a pop or something. But literally, he was watching minor league games day to day because if Bryant hit a home run, it affected the value. I don't know. I don't remember the specifics of how their market worked. It seemed very insular between a few thousand guys, maybe less than that. But and it's one of those things where, like, because they all believe the value was affected that May, they all bought into it, right? So the value happened. So it happens. I don't know if that. This doesn't seem like that. That kind of seemed like a separate group and society of people who were collecting cards in that fashion. I don't know if they even had the cards, quite honestly. Like it seemed like it seemed like they bought it as like a stock more than anything.
And effectively, that's what's going on today. It's just.
I will say this: there is no way that Mike Trout's worth $900K.
Well,
there's no way he flips that.
Some person on eBay begs to differ. You know, so, some person on eBay begs to differ. I mean,
I just,
someone bought the card. I mean, so someone thinks it's worth $1 million or 900,000.
was it Mike Trout who bought the card because he has the money to buy that card if he wants?
What's crazy to me is apparently the last Trout that sold was like 400,000 or 425, and it was a 1 of 1. So this one is out of 5, I believe. The red Bowman parallel.
Okay.
And so it's like, okay, 1 of 1 you'd think could be, more rare and more expensive, but
Is
that's
it
just the card
confirmed
market.
buy though? Because I know there's a lot of that time someone bids and then they're like, oh no, I don't have that, and they end up not paying.
That
Do you know
definitely can happen. I mean, I know that a big scandal recently is with Bowman 2020, the first edition. I know a lot of people were, watching Jason Dominguez and his card out of 99, a green parallel Bowman first. Jason Dominguez was going for $16,900 being bidded on.
Is he the one that spells his name with 2 S's?
I believe so. Yeah, I definitely
one,
mispronounced it, and I probably still.
No, that just annoys me.
I was like, Jason Dominguez. No, I have no idea, but I don't know half these guys. I just follow their stats, but yeah, I mean, his was at like 17K, and then all of a sudden overnight, it like was not being bidded on anymore. Apparently, the story is people dropped out, probably thought this is ridiculous. Why are we bidding more with each other? Or there were bots bidding the card up. People trying to raise the comps. But ultimately it ended on some guy who had like a low eBay rating, and apparently he didn't pay. So the guy relisted the card, and now it's at like 7K or something. So, you definitely can get burned on eBay, and not to say 7K for a freaking paper, card is anything to shake a stick at, but, I don't know. To your point, like the minor league, the whole ecosystem in baseball, basketball, all these things are happening now at scale. So like what your friend was doing in his little community, that is now happening literally worldwide. And eBay is typically, the place where people are moving and exchanging. And there's plenty of other places, don't get me wrong, Raz groups on social media and other websites that I'm, unfamiliar with, but yeah, people are speculating. Like they're trying to find that next Trout, and for every Trout, there's 1,000 guys that suck, So if you just got to be careful. And I'm an investor, I'm a collector, and I'm a flipper. That's my title. Some people are just one. I'm all three.
Who's more valuable right now, Luis Roberts or Eloy Jimenez?
I like Luis. I thought his last name was pronounced Robert, but again, I could just be going with that pronunciation because I like how it rolls off the tongue. But I like Robert more. I think he's just kind of a name I hear being tossed around a ton. Eloy, obviously, I know he is a monster. He's a master monster masher. He is absolutely going to be a 40 home run guy, but already is probably. I don't even know.
So if I put those 2 cards in front of you of the same style and everything, you would prefer the Luis one?
Well, from what I understand,
long term, that's the better one.
And it's tough because I play fantasy baseball, so it's like I got to be careful about what I'm speculating. Is it cards, or am I speculating fantasy baseball talent? Am I trying to win categories, in a fantasy baseball game, or am I trying to see whose card's going to be worth a lot of money in 5 years? I know you want to lean towards power. If you're speculating on cards, especially baseball, you want to make sure these guys can mash. No one's gonna, you do not want to invest in guys that are batting 320 and are shortstops and hit 5 homers. They're great players, but they have to have power. And just like in the NBA, they should be able to dunk. Dunks and homers instantly raise card values. And that's the whole idea. Is like when people are speculating, this stuff is changing in real time, and it's absolutely bonkers these days. It's one dunk away from tripling a card's value, or a nice minor league season, and all of a sudden this guy's card's worth thousands of dollars. He's never taken he hasn't even had a cup of coffee in the MLB yet.
So so let's just go over this real quick. Does Score exist anymore?
They do. I'm getting back into retail. I know people have mixed emotions on retail. Some people just go to, and for people like that might hear this, basically there's retail and there's hobby. if you're
We're
going to
going to
buy
presume
boxes.
people listening to this are probably pretty hardcore as far as what
Probably.
they're looking for. We're going to
Or-
explain
or
everything
there's-
just in case, but
Yeah, I mean, or there's people just like us who, are getting back into the hobby and,
right, yeah.
are intimidated because everyone in the hobby. I mean, I've met a lot of really nice people so far, but some people are a little more closed-minded. They think you're a part of that Gary V crowd. You're just here because you want to, raise all the prices of boxes because you're flipping it on eBay. So I get it,
Right,
but
right.
generally, there's people that go to card shops and they get hobby boxes. And those are the expensive boxes where you're going to get guaranteed autographs. You're going to get guaranteed relic cards, like jersey cards.
So the difference between me going to Tom's card shop and Walmart, just break that down real quick if I'm going.
Yeah, totally. I mean, that's you're going to get hobby boxes at a card shop. I mean, you can get single cards, you can get packs, you can get it all. But generally speaking, people go to card shops not only to support, local small business, but also because they want to buy a hobby box. They want to, I think Bowman's hobby box at MSRP is $275. Now I say that because it's, I think, what, $6 something when you try and get it in the aftermarket. So if you want to, sit on Topps website all day long and hit refresh, you might be able to get a box at $275. But yeah, people are going to buy these boxes of Bowman for $350, whatever, at their card shop, and they're going to they're going to be chasing autographs. They're going to be chasing, relic cards at Bowman. Not relic. You're not going to do the Bowman. You're not going to get relic in Bowman, but if you're buying these higher end basketball cases, Spectra, National Treasures. Flawless.
See, the basketball one interests me because a lot of people didn't do basketball when I was young, and I was pretty into it. So I would like to lean probably closer to basketball personally.
Well, you're going to get the most value, I think, out of
market.
Basketball. Like 100%, it's absolutely bonkers what basketball.
Football's never been big anywhere that I like. Even when I was collecting young, and even now, it seems like it's kind of. In spite of the fact being the most popular sport.
It just depends. Yeah, I mean, listen, if you're going to do football, I just say go find quarterbacks. Like those guys are going to retain their value versus a receiver you like a lot. I mean, you can pull a Christian McCaffrey and that'll do well, but you want to go get the high end quarterbacks and chase those guys, and some other positions do well, but nothing does as well as quarterbacks, and that's where it differs because basketball. Well, maybe I'd say centers probably aren't going to get as much love as maybe a high-end, wing, of course, like LeBron or guard. But generally speaking,
well, I mean that's today though. I mean, back in the day, I would say Tim Duncan was pretty high up there.
Potentially, we'd have to get someone on here, who knows more about that era, because honestly, like.
I mean, I guess
probably right.
Dead, to be honest. But,
I mean, you're.
Well, yeah, I had the Shaq mail-in that who was that for? I think it was Upper Deck where you mailed in and they sent you the Shaq card.
Yeah. I like that, or like a Shaq rookie. I mean, that's it. Rookie cards. I mean, even those old ones are going to do well. You want to talk about like a Jordan rookie? Like, I mean, even that's the thing. Some of those cards just didn't care if they were in the junk era. If they were a card in the 80s or the 90s, there's still some really, really valuable cards in that era. You never know. It just really depends on the brand. It depends on the player. It depends on what we're talking about. I mean, that's really what it comes down to. But yeah, like a Patrick Ewing Finest. It's a cool card, but I don't think you're going to get a ton of money for that, Now, Michael Jordan Finest, yeah, then you're going to be able to sell it on eBay and make a little money, but that's the fun in this. It's not only the chase, depending on what you're in it for, but it's also just figuring out what you have, what you're going for, what it's worth. I found a lot of enjoyment going on eBay and just looking up card values and kind of figuring out what the market is valuing cards at. And that's the cool part about all this is like we kind of have a real-time gauge on pretty much every card out there because you could just check eBay sales and see what it's selling for. So that's never been a thing.
I was over at my mom's garage the other day, and I went through a bunch of my old stuff, my old cards, and I have that top set 1990, I think it is. And like I remember going to the card store when I went a month ago, and he had like 5 of those sitting there at like $2 a pop. Like,
Oh yeah.
like my grandmother probably paid like $40 to buy me that thing in like 1990. You know.
Oh, I know. My dad did the same for me, and it's like I've heard these things are as good as they're better to be thrown in a fire pit for fuel than they are to even open. And it's
Like I said,
okay.
honestly, he has a sign right there that says he will not. Don't even bother. Like he will not buy anything from like the 80s or 90s. He will not.
Yeah,
buy
I mean,
anything.
again, unless it's Jordan rookie or something. I mean, like I'm sure he would take one of those. Fleer '89, I think, is.
Yeah,
I mean, there's just
Fleer.
some beautiful Jordan cards that are really just from the Last Dance. They are just exploded in value, but they've always done well, of course. But
Do they still sell a OPC?
yeah, and that's actually something you can find at like Walmart all the time.
Really? Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
like a little blaster box, and we can go over too because I know. Oh, but go. All right, circling back to okay. Hobby is where you're going to find the higher end stuff. It's going to cost more. Card shops, retail, whole different beast. And this is something I'm newer to because I was more of like a hobby card shop guy as a kid, and as I got back into it, I went right to the card shop because that's where I'm familiar. That's what I'm familiar with. But retail is a different animal. It's you're going to find less hits. It's going to be harder to find said hits, but it's going to
benefit being that they're cheaper. I'm presuming.
Exactly. Yeah, it's more accessible, and you're going to be a kid can go up and buy a blaster box for $20, and he might get a nice card versus a $250 box just to get an auto that he might not even like. It's more accessible, but not only that, I think the industry as a whole, from what I've read, is leaning heavier towards retail in the sense that they're not. It's always going to be hobby first, but they're trying to entice people to buy more retail and get more people into the hobby by putting in better cards. So if you're going to get retail, the time has never been better. And I will also say, if you're going to buying basketball retail, you pretty much can't lose, assuming you get the right brands, because there are some pretty shitty brands out there. But if you're going to
brands are you looking at, Ben?
If you're at Walmart or Target and you see Prism, that stuff you could go to a card shop and buy for 20 a pack, or you can get, or if you get lucky enough to find, a hanger or a blaster box, you could get 5 times the cards, for $20. So
let's pretend I'm stupid and explain what you mean by blaster box.
Yeah, absolutely. And you're not stupid, even if you want to pretend you're busy. You're not. And I will tell you, 2 months ago, I couldn't tell you what a hanger, blaster. It's all starting to make sense. But essentially, we all know a good old pack of cards. That's right. Stage 1. Moving on to stage 2 is what they call a hanger. And I didn't know why the hell they called it this for the longest time, but it makes total sense now. It hangs on the hook. It's typically 20, 30 cards. It costs about $10 to $15. Again, retail price, not aftermarket. It's going to be a lot more there. And it hangs on a hook. So if you see a top series 1 hanging on a hook, that's a hanger. A blaster is going to have slightly more cards. It might have a guaranteed relic card. It might even have, probably not an auto, but it'll probably have some special parallel cards. You probably have something special about it. And that's about $20 to $30. And that's going to have typically that's going to have 6 to 7 packs of cards in it. And the benefit of a blaster is, because this is also kind of a stain in the industry, is there's people that are called like pack feelers, and they'll go around and they'll feel packs and they'll try and figure out what packs have autos in them. And sometimes they'll kind of like fuck the pack up a bit, searching through it. And these are like a stain on the hobby. So
it's super obnoxious.
It's incredibly obnoxious. And so I really just stay away from packs in general. But a blaster is just essentially a box filled with 6, 7 packs. Then the next thing is more of a new thing, I believe, and it's called a mega box. Now that's going to be about $40, $50. It's typically going to have like a guaranteed auto in it. And it's going to have even more cards. And that's pretty much retail in a nutshell. There's also, you're going to see sometimes they're called complete sets. And they're like $60. You'll see them. That's just, do not buy that if you're like chasing for hits. That's simply just a whole base set of cards, 1 through 400.
But it doesn't have anything that's special in it.
Exactly. That's pretty much retail though. And so when you get hangers and blasters and mega boxes, I mean, if you find a Prism in any of those 3 varieties, or an optic, Donruss optic for basketball, don't even blink. Just grab it. And if you're a kind human, you won't grab all of them. if you're desperate and have been to a bunch of Walmarts recently, you probably will grab them all because you understand those things are valuable, and that's why you can't find them anywhere at Walmart or Target. Yeah, it's kind of bananas how crazy basketball has gotten in the hobby. It's actually insane. So
That's cool.
so
Like I said, I like basketball a lot. That was one of my. I thought basketball's upper deck stuff was some of the most fun to collect back in the day. So
oh yeah,
that's pretty
it's
cool.
great stuff. So have you gone and chased anything recently, or have you just been
So
just kind of standing on the sidelines?
going by your description, I did buy a Topps hanger pack.
Oh, nice.
With I think it had 30 cards in it. Nothing hit like interesting or anything. Just players that I liked, kind of thing. You know what I mean?
Sure.
But nothing that I'm going
That's
to
the
pull
thing.
out and say, "Hey, I got this." You know.
Right. Yeah, and you find what you like. You know, you might find you like collecting rookies, or you know, with tops and Heritage, which is another brand you'll see at Walmart and Target. You got to watch out for like variations and like cool little things. And and by the way, anyone who's confused or whatever, you can always go Google the brand of the card you're about to buy or you see online, and just type checklist into Google with that brand, and you can see the checklist, which is essentially just going to tell you what you can find in these boxes. And Heritage and Topps have some really cool variations. Like for Heritage, for instance, if you find a Trout that has an old school uniform on, they're like 1 in 11,000 packs, and they go for like $1,000, or they go for like 1,500 on eBay, and you could get it in like a $20 blaster. And those are rare, but yeah. So watch out. You know, go take another look at those Topps cards. You never know if you miss something. And there's unique little ways you can figure out kind of if they're one of these special variety cards.
Let's talk about real quick some cards that you back in the day that you liked, either purely for aesthetic value or you just remember them being kind of interesting. Like there's one of Frank Thomas's rookie cards. They forgot to print his name on. It's an error card.
Oh, perfect example of these variations. Yeah.
Yeah, that was pretty. That's kind of, I think, from that era, that's his highest value. That or his Leaf card, which I do had when I bought it. Yeah, I think it cost me 40. I believe now it's like 27. So that's how the market went. But
yeah, for some of these guys, it's unfortunate, but that's what happened.
well, I mean, when I was a kid, Frank Thomas and Griffey were kind of the one. They were by far the most valuable of those players at the time. Thomas was on the cover of Beckett like 6 or 7 times within like 3 years, man. It was pretty nuts.
Oh yeah, I mean the Big Hurt. I mean that guy beloved by half of Chicago.
I have a
beyond.
Griffey upper deck rookie that I can think of.
And you ever check? You probably know more about these old school cards than even I do, just because I was in that era, and I can tell you a couple cards I like, but I'm
I guess,
a little
yeah,
more
I probably,
into it.
yeah, I'm a little older than you, so I started collecting in like 1990, 91.
Yeah, and I was probably like 94, 95, but more so just, yeah, like, I don't know. I collected Michael Jordans back then because I love Michael Jordan.
Oh,
I like Kobe's. But I didn't like, baseball. It was more just about, I was a complete set guy. My dad would go buy the complete set, and I'd have fun looking at the back of the cards and looking at the stats. And it was definitely not about like chasing value back then. That's for sure.
Oh, I mean, obviously a huge stat person. I mean, I've told you, I played fantasy football over the phone. When you you had to dial in to play, and like drop players.
I can't even imagine that.
It was crazy.
I can't even imagine that. I mean,
Pro Football Weekly's the magazine I used to get, and
I can't even watch a minute of a football game without refreshing my fantasy score. I mean, it's a minute. I can't even go 20 seconds without refreshing that shit. I mean,
if I remember right, you had to call between, like, on a Tuesday between certain hours if you wanted to drop players or add players or whatever.
It's amazing.
It's crazy what it's become.
It is crazy. I mean, and we're both in our 30s, but I mean, I think it's hilarious that I've been doing fantasy sports for 2 decades. Like, I tell some people that, and they think I'm nuts. They're like,
I mean, I look at it. My screen name for Yahoo, that last part of it is 2000, which was the year I started. I opened the screen name. So I mean, I've been playing fantasy baseball since then.
20 plus years. That's amazing.
Man, it's not happening this year, man. I don't know if it's going to happen.
I will tell you this. I mean, I'm just bracing for the worst. I'm thinking, okay, hey, right now I don't know what's going on. I don't know what will be going on in a month. I don't know what will be going on in 3 months. I'm assuming nothing that it's just going to take longer than necessary, just so I don't get my hopes up. But in the back of my mind, I'm still sitting there thinking like, we're going to have NFL. I mean, we're going to MLB. They'll have a shortened season. NBA. They're going to figure it out. Everyone's going to figure it out.
NBA's not going to figure out. I mean, that last season's done though, right?
I mean, that's a good question. I mean, I'm in the midst of a freaking NBA fantasy basketball playoff run right now. So, I mean,
we should have all gotten our money back for that. That's bull. The season didn't end.
No, it's still. I know. It's like it's an escrow. I mean, we're all waiting.
Like last for anyone who's listening.
Yeah. I'm in the playoffs for anyone who's listening, and Jason's trying to scam his money back out of the people who are earning it right now in the playoffs. Yeah, I mean, I hope we're back. I hope at minimum we get NBA playoffs. Minimum. So we'll see if that ends.
Are they still playing? I don't know how you do that now. Like, legitimately, man, like this amount of time off, they're going to need at least, 2 weeks to get back into game shape?
You hope right now they're just playing 2K at home and shooting hoops in their driveway and working out. I mean,
those guys have half courts in their houses. I don't want to say it for all of them, but a lot of those guys do.
Or they'll find a park and just get reps in, but I mean, whether or not they're ready.
Practicing with your team for a playoff game. Too.
Right, yeah, and whether or not they're ready, at least it'll be consistent. I mean, everyone is dealing with the same thing. So, even if it looks shitty, they're going to go out there and play, hopefully, assuming they're allowed to.
Just do a tournament at Rutgers, man. Just do it like a 2-day tournament at Rutgers and just go out. Like one ref running back and forth, only calling like people getting tackled, and that's it.
yeah. Just do it March Madness style. Have it done over a weekend and just call it a day. I've heard they're going to do maybe even like best of 5 and short and for the entire playoffs.
They always done.
Well,
this isn't the show for that. We're not going to do like a whole
right. But I mean, I'm always down to dabble in some fantasy.
But we can't bring it up as far as since baseball's only going to do 5 rounds. How is that going to? Do they know how that's going to affect the rookies coming out for the top sets and Bowman sets or anything?
Well, and I'm learning a ton about Bowman right now just because I desperately bought an overpriced pack on eBay, and just because I wanted to, I couldn't find it anywhere, and I just wanted to rip a pack. Bottom line is, I know that people that are serious into Bowman have been studying these prospects for some time now. And all these guys are on card forums and they're talking about players. And, we were talking the other day, the big thing with Bowman, of course, is getting the rookie card and then the Bowman first. In the upper left-hand corner, if it has that little first, and it's a rookie card, which it would be if it's their first Bowman, right. Those cards are what people chase. And then particularly those cards in their parallels and their short prints. Like that Jason Dominguez I was telling you about was out of 99. So they only made 99 of them, and it was a green card, a green parallel card, and, again, thousands of dollars. So, yeah, you can imagine someone pulls that 1 of 1 Dominguez. I mean, that's I don't even want to guess what that would go for. But, no, these people, they got their head in the right spot. They know who they're going for, and they're not, whether or not the draft affects it, we'll worry about that next year. Because generally all the guys that are Bowman first, to my understanding, have already been drafted, and, they're just minor league players that have, typically haven't even produced at a high level.
Do they not reissue after the draft, the July draft or June draft? I'm sorry, June.
So they'll do like the first edition, which I don't know when they started that. Then there's like regular Bowman, and full disclosure, Bowman is like, I'm really not as well versed in it, but I know there's like Bowman Chrome, which I think comes out in the fall. So they have these different iterations of the Bowman series every year, and I know people chase that Bowman first, and then basically, rookie cards are still going to be valuable, but you want to figure out what set the first card will be in, so that you're not, chasing a Wandir Franco first right now when you would have. That was in last year's set. So, not to say a nice Wandir wouldn't be nice right now if you got the right card. But yeah, so, that's the thing. I have like, for instance, I have a Vlad Guerrero Jr. from Bowman Chrome 2019. It's out of 50. It's a gold parallel. It's worth probably like $70. Would that card be that much sweeter if it was like the Bowman first? Yeah, but I'm pretty sure it's not because I got it in the Chrome set, and in order to get the Bowman first, I probably needed to get it in the regular Bowman release in 19, or maybe even I have no idea. But essentially, it's still cool. It's still a rookie card, but it's all pretty confusing for people that are outside the hobby because they're like, wait, I thought rookie card was the best, but speaking of specifically Bowman, you're looking for the Bowman first rookie cards, and that's what all the hype's about with prospects in baseball.
Anything you wanted to say before I stop this?
No, just want to, I definitely want to tell you about my loot I got from Walmart.
Yeah, go for it.
4 blasters of 2017 Optic Donruss. Donruss Optic, rather. So what's special about these is you go to Walmart or you Target and you're looking for the boxes. You're going to see a lot of the same stuff. You're going to see Heritage, Topps, pretty much that stuff, Diamond Dozen. It is what it is. It's fun if you're just into collecting cards, and you're not going to pull something crazy out of that most likely. However, you see like a Donruss Optic box for football or basketball, grab it, because I bought these for $15 a blaster, and I knew that they were more than $15, but I wanted to just check real quick. So I went on eBay. They're selling for $100 on eBay per blaster. And so there's a lot of people right now who would take the boxes they see on the shelf and go flip them. I'm going to pull them. I rip some wax because that's what I like to do. But and I already ripped half. I got 4 boxes total, which some people would call me the dick for grabbing all 4 boxes. But for $15 each, I had to, and I never find good stuff. So, but I already pulled a Christian McCaffrey.
You took stuff no one wanted anyway, so it's not a big deal.
Well, I don't know. There's a lot of people that would have wanted this. But I got to it first, and I ripped half of it. I already got a Christian McCaffrey rated rookie hollow worth like $40 on eBay. So it's like I basically almost pay for the lot. I'm having fun. That's what this is all about. But that's my main point. My main point of telling that story is that you can still find some gold in retail. You just got to know what you're looking for. In worst case, you don't know what you're looking for, pull up eBay real quick. See what those boxes are going for. If they're going for what the price tag says at the store, it's probably just standard stuff. If they're going for 3, 4, 5 times X, there's a reason for it. And the reason for Donruss 17 is because Patty Mahomes is in it, his rookie card. So there you go. But yeah, we'll hopefully let's do this again next week. Definitely want to make sure I pass it back to you and see if there's anything you want to finish it off with.
No, yeah, I think next week what I want to do too is talk about a bit more about the guys on the YouTube that you watch. As far as
break rooms.
Break rooms, and I think we need to get into that next week and talk about some of that.
I'm glad you saved that for next week because that's a whole ball of wax, and I'm still learning, but I have plenty to share on that. So yeah. That'd be fun, man. Let's do it again next week.
All right, sounds good. All right, well, signing off. Have a good night.
Adios.